Coach Sandbo barked at you and you didn't feel like you had quite made it yet, you know, so it was kind of like a rite of passage.
That's a lie.
But no, well, among us it was. The legend is growing, just hang with me here. But until Coach Sandbo barked at you, know, you'd made it when Coach Sandbo yelled at you. And I want you to know, Coach, over the years, I wish I had $1 for every time on a Friday night that I have yelled, "Geez Louise!" or "What the cob!" And my personal favorite, "Am I speaking Greek?" It's my honor to introduce Coach Gary Sandbo.
Story stuff that Mark Akers, I'm going to just continue on with that. Who's the windiest quarterback in the history of Bethany College? We had a great time this morning. The pregame was wonderful. But right now, I feel like I'm going to the electric chair. I don't think it's healthy for a guy to have his heart rate, my age, retired, racing like it's racing right now. I'm glad you're here, Kier. Where are you? Keep an eye on me, man. Stay close. In Proverbs chapter 20, it says, "The glory of youth is in their strength, but gray hair is the splendor of the old." Don't you just want to hug Solomon? There was certainly a lot of glory and strength in this room back in the day, but splendor is holding its own tonight. Welcome back to Bethany College. You've been the focus of much talk and many conversations over the past year. At quarterback club and newspaper articles and service organizations, in morning coffee groups, and any time that Ted was around, the discussion was often about you and this reunion weekend. Whether you've been back often or are only now just showing up after carefully checking the fine print in the Lindsborg statute of limitations, you know who you are. We're really glad you're here. And if you're a son or a spouse making your first trip to Lindsborg, we want to extend a special welcome to you. As you can imagine, a lot of thought and planning went into this reunion weekend by your old coach, and a lot of worry too. You made a lot of people in Lindsborg happy by showing up for this reunion, but none more than Ted. He and all the rest of us hope you've enjoyed catching up with some old friends, teammates, and places that were really important to all of us at one time or another. I suppose I have the privilege of speaking here tonight because I've known Ted longer than anybody else here, including Nancy. Going back to the start of my freshman year at Augustana College in Sioux Falls, South Dakota in the fall of 1964. The Ted I met then and the Ted I heard about during my years at Augustana was not the Ted who coached you. He was you. No, he wasn't the Ted who coached you. Although 5 years apart at Augustana, we were both proud members of the Webbs. The Webbs was a society fraternity on campus, named after, it was really called the Websterian Society, named after Daniel Webster, who was a great American statesman and orator. I'm not sure Mr. Webster would be happy with that association. We had no statesmen in the Webbs, and the orators were so loud and obnoxious, Ted included, and caused the Augustana administration so many problems that about the time Ted and I came to Lindsborg, they disbanded our beloved Webbs. Ted, can you believe what they did to us? Nonetheless, he's still regarded by most of the old group as one of the all-time great Webbs. I'm convinced, just my personal opinion, that only by a chance meeting with Nancy was he saved from a life of debauchery and wild living. Suzanne and I came to Lindsborg and Bethany College with Ted and Nancy in 1976. The idea was to win, stay a few years, and move on to bigger and better. 39 years later, we're all still here snooping around the Smoky Valley. Certainly could have found bigger. I'm not sure we could have ever found better. Although we all played and coached at different times and have our own unique stories and memories, we have a few things that bind all of us together as Bethany Swedes. So whether you played or coached in 1976 or 2003 or anywhere in between, we all had Ted, which means we all had Newt. Newt Rockney and his very well-endowed nurses, marvelous Maxine, fabulous Frenchie. They'd usually show up for a big game wanting us to win one for the Gipper. Most of you didn't even know who George Gipp was. Then you go out and win anyway, and you won a lot, and that binds us too. Nobody here ever coached or played on a losing football team at Bethany College. We all quickly developed a strong dislike for the boys up north. Wesleyan always got a little extra attention, probably because Ted turned into an absolute grump during the entire week. Even Nancy and the kids didn't like having him around. When you ran a play perfectly, when you defended perfectly, when you kicked perfectly, he'd still find something to complain about. The only thing that would get him back to being Ted was when you put a good whooping on those Coyotes, and you did that quite a bit too. 25-4 in Ted's 28 years against Wesleyan, including twice in 2000 that's been alluded to earlier, and 15 in a row from 1987 to 2000. At the Sunday meeting, I'd say, well, for your sake, I'm glad we don't play them every week. Ted would smile and say, play who? Play who? We all participated in some really good pregame services, and we had another one of those this morning. We heard some wonderful speakers, had some good fellowship, and learned it was much better to be 5 minutes early than 1 second late. And wearing caps during the service and meal, strictly forbidden. Some freshman players every year found out it was actually possible to eat their meal and even enjoy it without their caps on. Pre-game meal itself, usually not as good as the pre-game service. And the post-game meal on the road, regardless of how well you played, was going to be burgers. No football program in America got more mileage out of 2 Big Macs, fries, and a large drink than Bethany College. And finally, each of you players during the football season daily demonstrated your courage, your toughness, your commitment to Bethany College, and your ability to handle pain, because you all practiced on possibly the worst practice field this side of the Mississippi River. By the end of September, when you'd come across the street for practice, I couldn't tell when the sound of the concrete ended and the field began. And the game field wasn't that much better. However, none of that stopped you from drilling just about anybody who showed up wanting to play football on Anderson Field. Howard Schnellenberger, head coach at the University of Miami, made a statement when he was trying to revive the football program there in the late 1970s that I think personifies all of you who played football for Bethany College. When asked by a reporter how he expected to win at the University of Miami when they had such poor facilities, and in fact didn't even have carpet in the locker room, Schnellenberger's response was, winning isn't about the carpet, it's about who walks on the carpet. We're mighty glad you were walking on our carpet.